The very first line of the book highlights one of the biggest truths we'll ever have to face. Life is difficult. I guarantee you'll never have a flawless life. On the bright side, you may find your passion or travel the world. On the downside, you may lose a friend or your job. But once we truly understand and accept that life is difficult, then life is no longer difficult. This brings us to the first lesson. Accept responsibility for your problems. Life is full of problems. They cause us pain, which is why we try to avoid them. We procrastinate and make up excuses, hoping that problems will go away. They won't. Actually confronting and solving problems is what helps us grow, but how many of us run away from them? Maybe you avoid checking your bank account for fear that you have no money because you spent it all. Maybe you avoid going to the doctors because deep down you're scared of accepting the reality of your injury or illness. And maybe you avoid catching up with old friends because you have neglected them in the past. Whichever problem you are avoiding, it will not fix itself. The very first step to solving your problem is to accept that you have one. You must take self-responsibility. As a psychiatrist, Peck has faced many patients who were not willing to take responsibility for their illness. They were looking for a quick fix. As a result, they dropped out of therapy and chose to remain sick instead. Accepting responsibility may not come straight away, but for those willing to take the time that's necessary will find themselves cured. Lesson 2. Love is separateness. Genuine love is where each person respects one another's individuality and sees each other as someone with a separate identity. This applies to your love for your intimate partner, friends, and family. Those who fail to see this can become narcissistic and clingy. Here's a classic example. This is George. George is athletic and passionate about basketball. This is his son Kevin. Kevin loves to read. He pushes Kevin to play basketball instead. He tells him to stop reading and get out on the court, causing Kevin to feel guilty and unnecessary pain. When Peck is confronted by George, saying that his son has a problem, he tells him that Kevin is perfectly healthy and instead he should lessen the pressure on Kevin to be an exact copy of himself. George ended up leaving in search for a new psychiatrist. The lesson here is simple. Don't expect your child to be just like you. I've left a link in the description below of a fantastic poem by Khalil Gibran on loving a child. Be sure to check it out. In the case of intimate relationships, I had an intense experience where I failed to see my ex-girlfriend as an individual. I was extremely clingy and relied on her for my own happiness without realizing it. I valued the relationship more than I valued her. 7 months after the relationship ended, I realized my mistakes. It was a huge turning point in my life. I'm now in a new relationship and I value my girlfriend's individuality. I'm in full support of her dreams, values, and goals. I value her more than I value the relationship. By seeing her as separate from me, it has led to a healthier relationship with less jealousy, less arguments, and happier lives for both of us. This brings us to our last lesson. Honesty is freedom. Imagine I go into a job interview and the hiring manager asks me, "Do you know how to use a 3D printer?" I lie and I say yes, so that I will get the job. I get the job, and on the first day, I use the 3D printer and accidentally break it because I don't know what I'm doing. When the boss finds out it's broken, I lie and I say my co-worker Mandy did it. I now avoid Mandy to escape an awkward situation. Soon, other co-workers hear that I know how to operate the 3D printer. I am asked to help them operate it, but lie and say that I have to go to the bathroom, and then I avoid them for the rest of the day. And so the chain of lies grows longer. Work soon becomes mentally draining, having to avoid people and create new lies to hide old ones. I should have been honest in the first place. We tell lies to avoid pain in the moment at hand, underestimating the chain of problems it will cause in the future. Peck says it takes time and self-discipline to be honest. There are no shortcuts. But when is it okay to lie? Well, imagine you are out for a walk one day and you see a man running towards you. He looks stressed and frightened. With tears in his eyes, he says, "I'm going to hide here. I can't run anymore. I didn't do anything wrong. Promise me you won't tell them where I am." So you promise the man. He hides and you keep walking. Seconds later, 4 police officers head towards you. They ask you if you've seen the man they were chasing. What do? Do you lie? The takeaway here is that sometimes the benefits of lying outweighs those of telling the truth, but we often drastically underestimate them. So be honest more often and you won't have to put on a disguise, stress out, or hold back your personal growth. Honesty is freedom.